Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to EVE Online. Today we are going to run a Guristas 5 out of 10, the Guristas Hallucinogen Supply Waypoint. Now, this is a difficult site, to say the least. It's hard enough that the popular strategies I've seen have either been to run it in a T3, or if you really need to, a T2 cruiser. And to handle a lot of the damage by speed tanking. I don't have the skills for that, so I am doing this in a Dominix. You might notice from the coloration on my ship here, this is actually a Dominix Navy issue. I'll get into the fit in just a moment. To do this, a normal Dominix Navy issue will have a very hard time with this. You would need very good skills to really have any chance of getting through it at all. I have blinged this one out. So I have a lot of dead space modules. Like I say, I'll show the fit just as we travel to the site here. There is arguably a reason to do it this way instead of doing it with speed tanking and with a T2 or T3 cruiser. That reason being that the last room of this site has 3 webifier towers, which will reduce your speed to about 10% of normal. It'll be almost nothing. So if you are speed tanked, you will have a very hard time past that point. The last room is fast. There's only one thing you need to kill in it, but you still might not be able to before you get destroyed. Even if you do, you might get killed on warp out. Certainly, better skills, better tank, reduce the odds of that. But if for whatever reason you don't want to do it in a cruiser, either your skills are lacking or you're worried about your ability to speed tank it, then hopefully this video will give you some help. As for why to run it, this site can easily drop 750 million, that's billion with a B, in loot. So, to go through the fit here, you'll notice I have blinged out this ship a lot. It is worth 900 million ISK. The lion's share of that is 550 million ISK for the hull itself. You might be able to bling out a Dominix instead of a Dominix Navy issue like this and still get the same result. The major contributions of the Navy issue are a good amount more armor. I think it's like 3,000 more armor.
Warp drive active.
And an extra mid slot. You also have a roll bonus to your railgun damage, which you see I have 4 railguns here. That replaces the roll bonus to drone optimal range. Now we are using drones with a high optimal range, so we will take some hit from that. We're going to have a lot lower range than we would with a normal Dominix. That should be okay. I think that the battleships in the site have, which is where the bulk of the incoming DPS will be, their range is impressive enough that we could not outrange them anyway. So, to go through the fit here, rigs, I have 3 armor pumps, 2 anti-kinetic, 1 anti-thermal. One of the anti-kinetics is Tech 2. These cost about 100 mil each, so if you were going to use them, you know, this is one of the more expensive pieces to bling out. You obviously could get bigger results than I do by Tech 2ing all 3 of those. So depending on how your skills are as compared to mine, you might need less bling, you might need more. High slots, we have 2 drone link augmenters. That puts our drone range at 75 kilometers. Our targeting range is 80 kilometers, 80.5 kilometers. That is going to make it so there's a little distance between when we can target and when we can start shooting. But again, it shouldn't be too bad. And mid slots, we have 4 cap rechargers. Now, by the 4th cap recharger, we're getting diminishing returns, but it is one of the pieces that you can see I'm just barely cap stable with 4 of them. Depending on your skills, with just 3, you may or may not be stable. I also have a large cap battery, which again is necessary to stay cap stable. The Dominix Navy issue has a slightly smaller capacitor, then it's not Navy issue compatriot. Last mid slot, large micro jump drive. This is essential. It's going to be used to get the range we need on our drones. Low slot, we have 4 drone damage amplifiers, which is the bulk of where our DPS will come from. And we have 2 armor hardeners, one for kinetic and one for thermal. Again, those are the 2 damage types that will be dealt to us by Guristas. And we have an armor repairer, and all 3 of them are Dead Space X-type modules. It was interesting. This is the first ship I've really blinged out, but it was interesting to me that the X-type modules, which are the best, they have like the largest damage resistance, the largest armor repaired amounts, were actually cheaper than a lot of the B and A-type modules. So I'm a little confused as to why that is. If you know, please leave a comment explaining it to me. But if you're looking at blinging out a ship and you look and say, well, just going from, going to a B-type module is prohibitively expensive, I can't imagine how expensive the X-types must be. They're probably cheaper, so make sure you actually just look at their price, because you might be able to get a lot more bang for your buck. And of course, like I mentioned, we have 4 railguns. I'm using iridium charges in them, which gives it an optimal range of 66 kilometers, close to the range our drones will be shooting at. I also have some antimatter charges with me, which will be used in case anything gets up close and personal. That said, we're in system, so let's warp to the site and get started.
Warp drive active.
The goal here is to do this all in one run, to not need to warp out at all. If you are doing this in a normal Dominix without any bling fittings, you probably will have to warp out at least a few times. The way I've run this in the past, before I decided to spend a bunch of money to make a really strong fit, was that I ran it with friends. Which is cool. It's a lot of fun to run with friends, but that does mean you're dividing the loot 2 or 3 or 4 ways. As for how to find this site, by the way, 5 out of 10s spawn as cosmic signatures that you can scan down, and they spawn in low sec that way. They do not spawn in high sec. You'll notice I am in high sec. The way you get a 5 out of 10 in high sec is as an escalation. They escalate from Guristas DEDs, which appear in high sec systems. I believe they only appear in 0.7 security space or lower. So in a 0.8 or above system, you won't see any dens. Below that, though, you can find dens. They can escalate. Usually about 2 times in 3, I see them escalate to a low sec system, but occasionally they do escalate to high sec, and since they represent big paydays, it's absolutely worth it to fit a ship like this and chase them down. Even if your skills, like mine, are not great and you have to spend a lot of money on the fitting. 900 million, the last time I ran one of these, I got almost that much in loot. So we're warping in here to the first room. We see 3 groups of enemies and a gate ahead. We have to destroy all of the enemies to unlock the gate. So the very first thing I'm going to do is to use my micro jump drive as soon as I'm out of warp, and to jump past them so that all of them are coming from the same side and I have range on all of them. After that, I'll immediately stop my ship to slow myself down and deploy my sentry drones and start locking things up. Now, at some point, they are going to realize, the AI will realize, that it cannot break my tank. This first room does not deal huge damage. It's substantial. You can't just ignore it. They are going to certainly make it through my shields. But it by itself can be soloable pretty easily. It's the second room that represents the real challenge in this site. Giving my drones a little bit of help from my railguns on larger targets. I'm not going to bother with frigates and the like, because I won't be able to track them effectively. Worth noting, you want to pay attention to not let frigates get under your guns. It might happen anyway, just because there are a lot of people in this site, but we're going to do our best to avoid it. You see, I have my armor hardeners switched on because they're about to break through my shields. I'm going to preemptively start my armor repair. Since I'm cap stable, I don't have to worry about running out of cap. I can just leave this on. It's worth noting, if I switch to antimatter rounds, I will no longer be cap stable. I'll be doing a lot more damage, but if I want to stay cap stable, I'll have to occasionally stop firing. The Pith Eliminator is one of the types of battleships, and you notice these go down a lot more slowly. They're also where the bulk of the bounties in this site come from, so it's worth being patient to take them out. Now, if we're lucky, we'll just be able to sit here and let everything run to us. Also, we got jammed. Occasionally, that will happen. Guristas, their primary form of E-War is signal jamming. The good thing about running a drone boat for these is that it will keep shooting anyway. They jam me, they do not jam the drones. The other nice thing about running this as a ship that does not need the speed tank is that since I'm using sentry drones, I can keep them right by me. So that if they start getting shot at, I don't have any delay, I just pull them back. And you can see now there's really no way that they can break through my tank. Even though they are, at this point, pretty much all in range. There's some frigates that are not, but frigates don't really deal very high damage, so I'm not worried about that. You see there's now only one battleship that is outside my range. It's also moving towards me, so by the time I get to it, it will be in range. I will not need to maneuver it all past this point. I'll just be able to mop up the whole room from this position. Do remember, if you are running this in low sec, which first of all, gotta caution you, if you go to a low sec site, 900mm fit is probably not what you want. Either bring friends in a cheaper fit or speed tank the site in a T2 or T3 cruiser. This is more than I would be comfortable risking in low sec. Unless I were, PvP fit and actually looking for a fight. So you see here we're just cleaning up the last of the enemies. 2 battleships and a battlecruiser left. As soon as they are down, I'm going to turn around, approach the acceleration gate, and use my micro jump drive. It will take me past the acceleration gate, but I will be a lot closer to it than 55 kilometers. And you do kind of have to think about that since this ship's top speed is 106 meters per second. Traveling 55 kilometers would take a little while. The only bad thing about the micro jump drive is it doesn't leave room for a micro warp drive. Meaning that getting between gates is one of the larger time expenditures here. So I imagine it's possible if you have enough skills that you're cap stable without the final cap recharger, maybe you could fit a micro warp drive in there. Not entirely sure if the fit would allow it, but I suspect that it would. Okay, that takes care of that. So we're just going to switch everything off here. Approach this acceleration gate. We'll reload our guns while we're at it. As soon as we're aligned, we're going to use our micro jump. First room dealt with easily. So now we only have 19 kilometers to burn to the gate. While we are occupied with this, I'll talk just a little bit about the second room. We're going to have much higher damage coming in on us. I believe that room had 3 battleships. I think this next one has 8 or 10 or something like that. It's enough that we're going to be taking, I think, more than twice as much DPS. That said, I have tested this fit. We should be able to just tank it, especially since the smaller stuff we will be keeping ahead of with our micro jump. Again, as soon as we warp in, the first thing we're going to do is pick a direction and jump. Again, we are going to have to kill every enemy to unlock the acceleration gate to the third and final room, and it will take a little longer. I was pleasantly surprised that this time through the first room, my drones did not take any aggro, but the time I did this before, the second room, they got aggroed. As soon as the enemy realized they couldn't break my tank, they got aggroed almost non-stop. So that's one of the reasons I have 9 of them, in case I mess up and lose one, and also so that I'll have a good reserve so that if one of their shields gets knocked out, I can pull it back and launch one with fresh shields while that one recharges. Traversing 20 kilometers of space at 100 meters per second is not the most exciting of prospects. I have heard that some people run this and other DED sites dual boxing. Basically, they'll have like one battleship of some sort, or whatever ship they're going to use to do the bulk of the damage, and then they'll have a support ship that they are playing on a different account. I have not experimented with either support ships or with dual boxing, so I wouldn't know how effective that is, but if you've done that, let me know how it went. Let me know if you got a faster result that way.
Warp drive active.
Okay, moving through to the second room. Those of you who haven't done the site are about to find out what I meant when I said that we have a lot of incoming damage. So, 4 groups of enemies, multiple battleships in each group, and just, you know, a cluster of sentry guns just around. I guess that's actually kind of a 5th group of enemies. We're aligning this way, we're turning on our armor hardeners, and I'm also just going to immediately turn on the armor repairer. You can see there's some pretty extreme DPS coming in. Okay, so once again, we're going to stand our ground here. Deploy our sentry drones and start dishing out the hurt. As for what to target, there's a couple of different ways you could go about this. On the one hand, it's tempting to target the cruisers and battle cruisers, as they do fairly high damage and have much less tank than the battleships. On the other hand, it's tempting to it could be tempting to go for the sentry guns, as you cannot outrange them, and also the battleships, of course, deal the most damage. I would recommend against spending any amount of time trying to shoot frigates or destroyers that get under your guns. If you see yourself start missing them, probably switch to a new target. Now you can see with all this incoming damage, I'm actually not repairing as quickly as they are shooting me. We are going to get something of a reprieve. I can, if I need to, use my micro jump drive again in another minute and a half. And that would buy us some breathing room, take us out of the range of a lot of the big damage dealing ships. Their battleships obviously don't have any sort of a micro warp or micro jump, meaning they won't be able to keep up. You see now, they've started shooting one of my wardens. That's going to take a little bit of damage off me, although until much of the enemy fleet starts focusing it, it's not going to be significant enough to make me start winning the armor repair race. At this point, some frigates are getting close enough to me that they will be under my guns. I'm going to use my micro jump drive soon, so what I'll do, I'm going to finish killing this battle cruiser, or just cruiser. Just a cruiser. I'm going to recall these and send out my light drones. I'm going to align in this direction, not directly away from everyone, but mostly away from everyone. I don't want to go a full 100 kilometers, and then I'm going to use my micro jump drive to put some distance between me and everything that is shooting me. My drones here now out of my range, I'm going to recall them, but you see a lot of the incoming damage has stopped. The battleships are still in range of me, but I should be able to repair through this. Of course, everything is also out of my range now. That's okay, I'm going to keep going this direction for just a little bit while I repair up. Again, with better skills, you might not have to do this. You could angle your jump a little bit more inward to just get things at 80 kilometers. That is also contingent on your ability to estimate the angle of the jump correctly. What I'm going to do here, things are still moving towards me. Acceleration kind of far away. I'm going to halt my movement here. And I'm just going to wait for the first ships to get within 80. Deploy my wardens at this point. Closest thing is now at 80. You see now I'm back to about 70% armor. I have another minute 15 on my micro jump drive, and then I'll be able to do that again if I need to. I'm targeting them as they break 80 kilometers range, and then my drones can start shooting them at 75. They are being awfully sporting about not targeting my drones. I've probably jinxed it by saying that, but there it is. It's nice with the iridium charges, I can effectively hit things even at sort of the outer edge of my range, like I'm shooting now. If you have a different fit of a ship that you're thinking about running this in, and you'd like to know sort of how your tank numbers might compare to what I have here, I did the math for this ship. Typed towards Guristas damage, it can tank roughly 800 raw DPS. That means 800 damage per second before it goes through my armor reductions for kinetic and thermal damage. And if you're not sure how to do the math for that, then feel free to leave a comment, ask me, and I'll walk you through it. Obviously, if you're trying to speed tank, it's sort of a different equation, and to be perfectly honest, I don't know how that one works. See here, things are getting a little closer, and now my armor's just sort of fighting a slowly losing battle. But as I remove more and more enemies from the equation, it should be a battle that I will start to win pretty soon here. The biggest sources of damage, however, the battleships, I've only destroyed, I think, one, maybe two. Still nothing targeting my drones, which is really nice. I had a very annoying time last time through here where they just would not stop shooting them. Okay, so we've got the sentry guns and some battleships left, and I believe that is it. So we'll hopefully take out all the battleships from this position, and after we are done with that, we can jump in and send hobgoblins to clean up the sentry guns while we burn to the gate. Killing this many battleships will take a little bit of time. At this point, we've basically broken even with armor. We got as low as like 45%, but now we've stabilized, and just before the armor repair goes off, we're sitting around 50. Finally have to reload the railguns. I am impressed with the no drone aggro. Maybe what I was saying about them relentlessly aggroing is not always true, and I just had a weird day for it. I hope that's the case. Last 5 battleships. We're finally starting to gain significant ground in the armor war here. I'm not actually certain if we need to kill the sentry guns or not in order to get through the gate. But since when we warp we're going to be 20 kilometers away anyway, I can just launch the hobgoblins as we fly and kill them for whatever small bounties they give. There's really no reason not to. If you do this though, and you manage to get a warp that gets you like right on the acceleration gate, maybe try just activating it and tell me how it goes. If the sentry guns are locking the gate. When you are choosing your drones, I believe wardens are the best for this. Every faction has 2 different types of sentry drones. So Galente, it's the guards, and the wardens are the 2 types. Guards have much lower optimal range, but better tracking. Wardens are the opposite of that, longer range, worse tracking. There might be some small difference in damage, but For our purposes of shooting battleships at distances, which, as you can see, is a lot of what this site is about, they are definitely the more sensible option. And you want Galente drones, Guristas, they deal thermal and kinetic, and they are also weak to thermal and kinetic. And these, as you can see, deal kinetic damage. Gotta love those explosion animations. Now you might be able to make a good bit of money if you, right at Warpin, had dropped a mobile tractor unit. If you bookmark that and come back for it. I have not done that. One reason for it is just the loot. I mean, you'll probably get 10, 15 mil in loot, maybe a little more if you're lucky. Battleships can give pretty good loot. But I tend not to think it's worth it, even though I have the mobile tractor unit. I just don't want to come back for the loot. The other big reason I don't is that there are some players in HiSec who, if they see a mobile tractor on their D-scan, will decide, hey, I'm gonna go mess that up. I'm gonna go steal whatever's in it. They like the whole piracy thing. And in the case of a 5 out of 10, if they have a ship that can run it themselves, they can then race you for the site, because they'll have the bookmark too. I don't think that really any risk of that happening is worth the 10 to 20 million that you could get from looting the site.
A module has run out of charges.
Reload again. But this is the final battleship. Alright, so we're going to pull all this back to the drone bay. Line up the acceleration gate. And warp. Or jump, rather. And make sure we keep approaching that while we target these. And launch our hobgoblins. And even though they're somewhat small targets, they don't move, so my rail guns have no trouble hitting them. No doubt sentry guns could kill them faster, but since we want to move while we're doing this, having hobgoblins out is a much more sensible option. We'd have to stay still if we had sentry drones out. Last sentry gun going down. Pull back our drone. Got 700 7,500 meters left to burn to the gate. We can switch off our hardeners and our armor repairer now, and reload one final time. I think for this we want to switch to antimatter. Serve our purposes better in the last room. So this final room, once again, if you are speed tanking, this room is very dangerous for you. And you want to be very careful because you will get webbed to just a tiny fraction of your max speed. It is, certainly for speed tankers, it's the hardest room in the site. I'm not sure how the incoming damage actually compares to that room we just got through. But in terms of how easy it will be for us, it's the easiest thing. First thing I'm going to do is sort enemies by name. The only thing I need to kill in the site, start my hardeners, is called the Guristas Distributor. He is the one with the loot, and the site will despawn once he dies. So all we have to do is kill him, bookmark the location, and warp out. And since Guristas appears before Pith in the alphabet, we can not have to scroll through all the enemies by just sorting our overview by name. They'll appear right near the top here. So we automatically come to a stop leaving warp. I'll turn on the armor repair and break out my wardens. As soon as he's targeted, I'll tell the drones to shoot him, start firing my railgun. From 40 kilometers, that's a reasonable distance for my antimatter to hit, so the higher damage is better. I'm going to make my bookmark where I am right now. You see, he's a battlecruiser. He's a little better tanked, maybe, than your normal battlecruiser. But ultimately, we still get through that just fine.
Warp drive active.
And we will now warp off. You can see from the damage I'm taking versus what I'm repairing that this maybe does about the same DPS as the previous room, where I'm not repairing as quickly as I'm taking damage, but it would be a slowly losing battle if I were to stand and fight. But I can switch everything off now. All that's left is to warp back to the wreck once the site despawns and take the loot. So, just going to wait a little bit here at the star while we do that. Again, if this is being done in a low sec, you probably don't want to stick around the star. It's an easy place for people to find you. Probably want to warp to a safe spot instead. And I will switch back to iridium charges just so that next time I break out this battleship, I start with the correct ammo type. I don't forget to change it back. Cannot wait for the new star graphics so that I can stop looking at that. An advertisement for Eve Radio. Cool. I wonder if there's anything in this crate. Probably won't take it because I like the fact that they've just used it as an advertisement at this star. But I don't know, maybe they put like 100 mil in there. I don't know why they would, but maybe they did. Oh, nothing at all. Okay. I guess you cannot take what is not there. Probably smart on their part. See, if I say warp in, nope, we still have the dialogue. I'll just stay aligned so we can pretty much instantly enter warp next time we try. This site despawning, like all sites despawning, takes 2-3 minutes. I'm not really sure what the exact timer is. I'm not sure it's consistent either. I think the server just has to look and notice that the distributor is dead. Actually, I just realized I probably don't want to be aligned to warp already because If I am, then then I would just instantly warp. I couldn't see if there's a dialog box or not and cancel it. The site will never despawn if you are in it. You really have to be outside the site. If you just warp back immediately, you'll be waiting for it to despawn forever. There we go. No dialogue. It's down. You can also see there's the Guristas DED right there. We could go hunting for another one of these escalations. I might do that later tonight, but for now we'll see what the loot is and then wrap up the video. Might as well take the bookmark down. And there we go. Guristas distributor wreck. As soon as we land, we'll deploy a mobile tractor unit. I could have bookmarked the wreck as I left. That probably is the smarter thing to do, but I like to make my bookmarks the second I get in the room so that I don't warp out having forgotten to make a bookmark. My guess is, in this fit, you see, 9mm bounty tick there, pretty nice. We get any ticks before this? Yes. So 2 bounty ticks means this took about 40 minutes to run. Does put this as a long video, but that's the approximate time frame you're looking at to run this. Now, bare minimum, we're guaranteed to get, I think, 46mm in loot from the personal effects. But we'll see if we get more. And we do. We get the guaranteed drop, 43mm, 18th tier Overseer's personal effects. We get something we don't care about, and we get our dead space loot, a B-type adaptive invulnerability field, worth 551 million. Approximately 600mm in loot from that site is a good day to me. I'm gonna go to station, dock up here. That will conclude the video. So thank you for watching, everyone. I hope that you are able to run these sites. I hope that you get drops like what we just saw. It's definitely not bad. Half a bill in loot for 40 minutes of work. And as always, fly safe.